think it's working. We'll see. Okay. And now for TikTok. Hello. How's everyone doing? I'm currently still setting up, but we're going to be doing ghost stories, of course. Good old ghost stories. Okay. But other than that, how's everyone's day been so far? Hello, Pickle Sandwich. Hi, Vinny. Yeah, so still setting up my I'm trying to set up here on TikTok as well, so bear with me, you guys. Always a good always a interesting stuff. I know I honestly today was okay, I guess. I was so tired. Um I took a nap. I don't know. I'm not much of a like I feel like naps are great, but it just takes up a good portion of your day and then you don't get anything done, so it kind of sucks. Um but yeah. I don't know who they are. Okay. Should I know who they are? Hopefully my live stream is going. Okay, hopefully my TikTok. We'll see. I don't see it on here. Naps are the best. Are vampires real in New Orleans? You know, I actually did a tour several years ago over that, and the story, it was so there was like a story of I forgot his name already, but it was super fascinating to say the least. Why can I not see myself on here? Let's see something. I'm not able to see myself on TikTok. Oh my goodness. Always streaming in multiple spots is always frustrating. Okay. But anyways, I digress. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like people have had some interesting stories regarding like vampires, I suppose. Huh, I wonder why it's not working. Let's see something. See one. Okay. Should have been. Should have worked. We'll see. Did it work? Not sure if it's working. Anyway, Delphine Lalaurie had vampiric tendencies. Oh, thank you, Vinny. Yeah, we did the tour. There's a lot of really good tours. I feel like obviously like New Orleans, there's so many things to do out there, so many things to see and tours, of course. I highly recommend I don't know who the what I don't know who the Casket sisters are. Wait, should I know? Sorry, do I? Who is that? Okay, so let's see. Hi over here on YouTube. Ghost Stories on Crunchyroll. Is it good? Hmm. I'm not sure what's going on with my live stream. Can you guys see me over here on TikTok? All right. So, ghost stories. All right. So, yesterday, for those of you who were not on the live stream yesterday, it's totally fine. We're gonna catch you up to speed. So, yesterday, actually, can you guys hear the background sound? Hopefully, you can hear it. If not, no worries. But yeah. So yesterday we were sharing. There was like a whole Reddit thread about like what are creepy things that kids have said, and there were some pretty good stories to say the least. I think this one is just. Let's see where we're at. Yeah, tell me the creepiest thing a child has ever said to you. And I think that a lot of the good stories. Hi Noel. Yeah, there's a lot of good stories. So I feel like we can definitely pick up from here all by myself. Okay, let's see where we're at. All right, so we'll read this one. So it says kind underscore vanilla 7593 says, we moved into a new house in 2003 or 2013, and my middle daughter was 3 at the time. We were unpacking and she ran down the hall and says, "Mommy, where did she go?" I said, "Who?" She said, "The little girl in the pink dress." Another time, I was organizing my closet and pulled down my photo albums, and we were looking at them, and she points to my mom who passed in 2008. She says, "Granny." Mind you, she's never seen these pictures before or knew about her because I was getting ready to teach my kids about their grandmother. She's a seer, all right. And for those of you that know that it's like, you know, being intuitive and all of that. Hi, Paranormal 24 underscore 7. Hi, guys. Yes, I would love to come back up. Yay. Yeah. The ghost stories on Reddit. Yes. So it is in this screenshot below my image here. Yes. So we were reading some of these stories and, okay, well, anyway, I wonder. Anyway, whatever. So she sees her granny. Anyway, I'm getting all distracted. Okay. So she's never seen photos of her grandmother. Mom was getting ready to teach her kids about the grandmother. And she believes that she is a seer. We have since found out that our home was built on a site where there was an old hospital. We live on a reservation. Oh, interesting. Super interesting. Wait, this is just like a sentence, but still caught my attention. My son spoke to me about the cold man, said he was blue and would always tell him he was cold. Imagine that, like anything with like the name, the cold man, the man with like the wraps, like any like that stuff is always super. I don't know. It's like scary to me. Like that creeps me out. Okay. This one said this was from Cracked Bell. They say it's not like super spooky, but I was on a Skype call. Oh my God, I have not heard Skype in a very long time. If you have ever used Skype, you have seen some pretty interesting stuff. I I remember Skype. I remember even like back in the day, there was like these YouTubers I used to watch, and they were sponsored by Skype. Like throwback, I know, but it's just funny. I have not heard that. Hi, is it buy-in cake? Hi. Okay, so I was on a Skype call with my sister. My niece was about 2 and sitting on my sister's lap. I told her a joke. What's orange and sounds like a parrot? She started to laugh and said, a carrot. My sister and I were both very surprised. So my sister asked her if she knew the joke already. She said yes. And when my sister asked who told it, she said, Aunt Cracked Bell. That's me. When my sister asked her when, my niece looked at both of us like we were stupid and said, just now. Hmm? Interesting. Interesting stuff. Interesting. Okay. It's Bianca. Hi, Bianca. From the Philippines. Hello, from the Philippines. Cold man Victor Freeze. Okay. So this one is turn the hallway light off at night. I don't like seeing the towels float in the air. Stop. I had a towel rack outside of the bathroom, which was next to my 5-year-old's room. We were experiencing a lot of weird things at the time, and this is an honorable mention. Around the same time, after bedtime, I heard a male voice coming from my kid's room, followed by him screaming his head off. When I ran into his room, he said a scary voice was laughing right in my ear. Glad those days are behind us. Oh my gosh, floating towels. Cold man Victor Freeze as in Batman's. That's what I was thinking too, like as in Mr. Freeze and Batman. Wait, you guys can't hear me? Let me know if you can hear me. Looks like the audio here is working on my end. How is the audio? Okay. Interesting. Am I just not on? Anyway, I know what's going on. Okay. Perfect. And can you guys hear the background music as well? If not, that's fine. But I know last time we were trying to get it to play and it just wasn't working. Okay. So this one says babysitting my toddler niece. She was off the wall energy and she spoke 1,000 words a minute. I was like, I was not that hyper. I was like, or was I? I think we're all right. Like all of us can confidently say for the most part, when we felt comfortable, we would yap away with anybody we felt comfortable with. I know I was a talker. One thing that I was known for as a kid was like sharing all these random stories, and here we are. We're reading stories off Reddit. So there's that, right? So funny. Anyway. Oh yeah. Thank you for the likes. Thank you for the taps, for the likes on here on TikTok. You came back. Hi, Pickle Sandwich. Welcome back. You said you logged out and came back. Okay, awesome. We're just starting the story. So, anyway, so babysitting toddler niece, off the wall energy, a yapper, which I feel like a lot of us were, right? I can imagine. And then all of a sudden, she ran up and jumped on the couch, stood up on the cushion. She grabbed face with both hands and looked at me very intensely and said, in the most calm I've ever heard her and the most clear I've ever heard her. And she said, Uncle, we're all inside the dream of a baby. And then she kept that stare and just backed away. Then she kind of shook it off and started playing like nothing ever happened. I told my parents I was scared shitless. Turns out she was napping the other day on the couch and her dad was watching 2001 A Space Odyssey, and she stole glances when her dad thought she was sleeping. She saw the baby scene and a few other scenes, and I guess she put it together in her mind that we were in a dream in that baby. She'd been going around the house all week being suddenly scary and existential, and her parents forgot to warn me. Okay, well, that wasn't super paranormal, but it is funny. It is funny. Pickle sandwich says, I was a kid quietly staring at people. Yeah, I mean, yes, there's also the combination for sure, for sure. For sure. I don't know, I feel like it just depends, like, depend who was around, I suppose. Okay. Let's see. All right, so took my daughter to the bathroom late one night when she was little. I picked her up and walked out of the bathroom with her. She says my name and goes, "Why is Sissy standing in the kitchen?" I looked over to an empty kitchen, then looked into her room where her sister was sleeping in bed. I stood in there in the room considering sleeping on the floor since she was in bed. Wait, so like she saw like a double of her sister somehow? I mean, that could just be like imagination and stuff too, right? Oh, Nightmare on Elm Street. This is just a sentence, but still, it's scary. I don't like the old lady in my closet with no feet. Imagine your kid saying that, like, "Hey, I can't sleep. There's an old lady with no feet in the closet." Like, oh my gosh, no thanks, no thanks. Okay. Side note. So when I just had a memory unlock. When I was younger, my sister used to live in an older house in Los Angeles, or well, not Los Angeles, but like in like Huntington Park. She lived in this house, and what was interesting about that was that when her son was living there, um, I guess my sister told me that she would hear him when he was very young, like just talking to himself. And when she would open the door, he would just like get quiet, and she'd be like, "Who are you talking to?" And like she never found out who it was. But then I think about like how during that era, um, we went to a wake, and this was when my godmother had passed away. And they do this thing where like, or our family does this thing, and it's part of like Salvadorian culture and other stuff, but doing this thing where like you pray for the loved one, and normally like it would be in like in a wake. So before the burial, there would be like an open casket. You get to like respectfully say goodbye, and I guess the whole point there is just to like say goodbye and then pray and etc. Right? So, anyways, we were sitting there in this the backyard, and we all took a moment of silence, and we were all like, just listening to the spokesperson, and then they sat down because they were all going to partake again in like the praying and all the stuff and the music playing or whatever. And so at the time there was like no one near the casket. Everyone was respectfully in their spots getting ready to do their prayers and all this stuff. And if you're not praying, you're just sitting in silence and being respectful that everyone else is doing their thing, right? So my nephew, I think he was maybe around like 5 or 4, and I remember he started getting very antsy and just like would not want to sit down, kept grabbing my sister by the shirt and just like really tightly grabbing onto her and just kept staring at the casket. And so like obviously like maybe we're thinking, okay, this is just shock to him, it's very different. He doesn't see this every day, so he obviously feels uncomfortable, etc., right? So then after that was said and done, we had gone to go eat at like a Jack in the Box or something like that. And my sister goes to her son. She goes, "Jonathan, like, that he was eating and feeling better and being his bubbly, go lucky self, right?" She's like, "Why were you acting that way during, when we were at the house, meaning like the wake?" And he goes, "Oh, I saw someone standing by the casket." And again, there was no one there. And so she's like, no, there was no one there. And she's like, who do you think it was? And like, or can you describe what the person looked like? And then there's like a bug flying. Well, I don't know how it got in here, but it's flying around my face. Anyway, so she's like, well, what did this person look like? And I guess Jonathan said that it was like a very tall person, all in white, and they were glowing and all this stuff. And she's like, well, who do you think it was, Jonathan? And he said, God. I was like, whoa, that was a very interesting, just the whole thing. I was like, what? And so anyway, I just think about that every so often, like the time that happened, and there was like no one there. Everyone was seated. You can definitely see that area because we're supposed to stay, sit in our spots and everything, right? I sound a little low. Interesting. Maybe I'm just like far away from it. Is this better? Okay. Yeah, so anyway, just interesting stuff nonetheless. Okay, perfect. Perfect. Okay. Oh, so this is a picture. I mean, this looks like a glare. Picture glare. Could be the phone, right? I don't know what this is, but... Oh, now I'm very loud. It's very loud. Thank you. This looks like a... Okay, kind of turned it down. Well, okay, so let's see what the replies were for this image. Hey, just friends. It looks like he's posing with him. I don't know. It's just there. I guess. So this is like the thread for things that kids have said that are creepy, and then this is just there. I don't know what this means. There's upvotes. Am I missing something? Look at the girl's body language. They both are on guard and defensive, and look a little at ease. I guess like there's something here. I don't know. Super interesting. Just two kids. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so these are getting some okay upvotes. We'll read these. When my daughter was 3, I had a second daughter. She was thrilled to have a baby sister, and one day I was nursing the baby, and my daughter came in and said, when Wendy dies, I'm going to get a baby brother. I told her that Wendy was fine, and she looked at me very seriously and went back to playing. A week later, Wendy died suddenly from an ear infection. Oh my gosh, that's sad. 3 years later, I had a son, to no one's surprise. Oh, that's so sad and eerie. Stephanie, I need a theory about ghosts without feet. Well, okay, so what that could be. Okay, so I have this video pinned on my Instagram, TikTok, pretty much anywhere. Well, not YouTube, but on TikTok and Instagram for sure I have it pinned. So there's a story time of me when I went to the Queen Mary. And if you don't know, that is a ship in Long Beach, and it has a lot of great history with like historical stuff. There's museums from time to time, tours. They even like during the fall, from September through October, they also do like haunts inside the ship that are based off the urban legends. Anyway, so I believe about 2 years ago at this point, I had gone to a theatrical seance with a magician, and anyway, we were standing outside of the room entrance, and as he was explaining the things that he owned that were part of the seance, I saw this like white apparition just like walk through the wall, and it was white, like glowing, like it looked like I don't even know how to describe, like literally like joke. It sounds like a joke, but the best way I can describe it is like a big white blob, almost like a Casper. And it sounds ridiculous, and I would not even dare to like believe that. But the thing is that the stranger, there's another person next to me who saw the same exact thing. We saw this apparition try to open the door. We heard the door, like the metal clank and everything. It was like the most bizarre thing I've ever seen, ever. And so when it comes to like theories on like why things like floating or missing anything, right? I feel like it's like as much as you can see the apparition manifest. Um, like when I went to the Heritage Square Museum in Los Angeles, there's the Octagon House, and the city was saying that she's like a volunteer there, and they would do many tours and events there, and she said that she saw um, just like legs walking, like very silhouette, and you can like it was you can kind of see through them. There's like walking on the second floor. It was like the strangest thing. So I don't know, I just think it's like how much they manifest. Uplift more above says people have been saying the Queen Mary was haunted, but it's never even went anywhere. It's literally been docked there just sitting. If it was haunted, I'm sure the ghosts got tired of that. Well, I believe once upon a time they did use it, but who knows? And they also have a lot of like because it's been used for museums and stuff like that, they do have um antiques and stuff like that. But I don't know. I feel like I've definitely seen stuff there in different times in my life. I've heard different stories as well, but yeah, it is an interesting place. I feel like everyone should just go at least once to visit, and they have like pretty good food. There's a restaurant there. Even if you don't want to do any of that, you can also do the haunted mazes in September and October. Oh, Catalina Island. Yeah. Yeah, feel free to feel free anyone for sure. Feel free to message me any of your stories or share any stories for sure. Catalina Island is beautiful. I've only gotten to go once. I went a couple years ago. There's we walked around the pet cemetery there. Um we were in like the little buggy, and yeah, it's a very beautiful place. And then I got a book there, and the book was about paranormal phenomenon and UFOs, and you read a theory about ghosts without feet. If I can find something, for sure. All right, so this one's Thai Organic says, across from the house where I grew up, my parents still live there, and it sits well, let me reread that. Across from the house where I grew up, my parents still live, sits an empty house. The lady who used to live in it passed away probably around 5 years ago, and her daughter inherited it and it just sits empty. A few days ago, before I was leaving for work and dropping my 3-year-old off with my parents, I'm walking her inside, and she started pointing to the house and the lawn and saying she sees a scary dog. I'm like, that's very strange. So fast forward to about 11 o'clock at night that same day. I'm off at work on my way to get my daughter, and my mom FaceTimes me sitting on the porch with her because she was having trouble sleeping. Out of nowhere, she starts acting terrified and genuinely spooked, on the verge of crying, and says, that neighbor house is scary. I see the neighbor and that dog on the porch, and they were looking at me weird, and they have black eyes. Me and my mom were both thoroughly freaked out. Oh my god, that freaked me out. Hi, Pete. I don't think I do. Well, yes. So for new messages, I think there is a request. Oh yes. So for this one, I'm using I'm not like I'm live on multiple platforms, so it doesn't have that. Sorry. Nell says I may have some scary stories that might interest you. Yeah, feel free to write to me, message me, whatever's easiest. Okay, so so my cats are like It's so funny because I'm sitting here in the room, of course, and it's like I have the lights off. Well, mine is this light, right? But it is pretty dark in here, so my cats keep like making me on edge because I'll hear things. I'm like, oh, it's just my cat. Um, and they're playing. I think they're like, I don't know. They're playing with something for sure. I have two cats. They're hating on me. The ghosts are hating on me. Well, you know what's interesting? I was talking to somebody about this. It was like my friend Liz and to my friends JC and Liz, and we were talking to somebody about paranormal, like our paranormal experiences and all this stuff. And I think what was it funny? The funny part that the lady was like, just didn't even think of that or consider was like, I told her, I said, yeah, you know what's so funny is that you have to have a sense of humor when you're paranormal investigating. Or I think she said it, someone said it. And anyway, the point was talking about how, like, because sometimes you'll be out there paranormal investigating and sometimes you'll get through stuff through like the spirit box or like that, like an Ovilus, like paranormal equipment basically. Like you'll get messages and the ghosts do be hating. They are sometimes are very rude, and yeah, it's kind of comical for sure. I had a ghost once call me a wench through one of the devices. We were in one of the houses in this ghost town, and the second floor is said to have some very intense energy, and there was like a man that doesn't like women, and oh my god, of course there's a bug that flies around. Anyway, I need to like kill this bug. Speaking of that, anyway, so the guy, the I was up there on the second floor and I was called a wench, and I was like, wow, I've not heard that word in forever. And what's up with these with the bug? I think it's is it hope it's not a mosquito. I've been getting bit. I've been getting bit nonstop by bugs, you guys. It sucks. I hate it. Um, and even like when I'm not like I went to El Salvador where it's just like a mosquito town, and I like had two double mosquito nets and I was still getting mauled by mosquitoes as opposed to the people that were not using those. So yes, I am now itchy. The music stopped. Interesting. There we go. I'm like, why did it stop? All right. Camping Cats 90 says, kind of funny rather than creepy, but the context is what got me. So, my 6-year-old niece was nervous about flying for the very first time, and we were talking about a possible trip to Disneyland. And I was doing my best planes aren't scary sales pitch, like movies on little TVs and looking at the clouds and all the good stuff. She smiled and said, maybe we'll get to see God up there. Not wanting to scare her more, explaining why we're not wanting to see God while flying, I awkwardly replied and said, yeah, maybe once we'll be a little closer to him, and then immediately changed the subject. Meanwhile, I'm internally screaming, ma'am, if we see God during the flight, that means something has gone catastrophically wrong and there is no longer a Disneyland trip. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for letting me know. I'm like, what is up with. Okay, cool. Hopefully it's not too loud, but if it is, let me know. All right. Yeah. No, you definitely don't want to see. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, the connection is a little wonky. Sorry about that. All right. Yeah, if it is glitchy, let me know. I hope it's not. All right, so this one is from GenStar124, and they said, I don't have children, but I have stories. Sorry ahead of time, it's going to be long. Oh, sorry ahead of time, it's going to be long. So, okay, we like long stories here. All right, so it says, my father and cousin grew up in the same house. When my parents married and had my sister and I, my dad's entire family still lived there. We hung out there every weekend during the summer. because it was really nice in-ground pool with a diving board. Oh, of course, yeah. I would too. Okay. Hopefully it's not. Ooh, I feel like the music is really loud. I'm not gonna just get it too loud. All right. So, all right. Anyway, so diving board, pool. The entire family would come over for cookouts. No one ever told me anything about anything being wrong with the house, but I just remember feeling something. Something wasn't right with the house. If I had to go in and use the bathroom, I'd make my sister or cousin come in with me and stand by the door while I went. Nothing ever happened to me. It was just a feeling. Wow. Okay, I'm like, why are the okay. Okay, so nothing ever happened to me. It was just a feeling. Let's see where we're at. The house, okay, blah blah blah. Sorry, I lost. Later as I got older, my dad and his family began telling us stories about things that happened to him in the house. The house is a rancher with 3 bedrooms off the same hallway. My dad said at night something would walk the hallways and scratch at the walls. Ooh. While it walked up and down. He also said a cloaked figure at some point didn't know what it was, but said he could feel evil rippling off it. Since then, my cousins-in-laws bought it and remodeled the entire house. Then when they retired to a community, my cousin and her family bought it. I go there all the time now and I don't feel anything anymore. I think it's gone down into the basement because that part of the house still creeps me out. And my cousin's daughter has told me she experienced things, but nothing too horrible. Oh my goodness, that is very chilly. Hi, welcome guys, welcome. Also, thank you so much for the likes over here on TikTok. Wow, we're at 1.3 likes. Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, so this is the second story about the house that used to belong to my great-grandmother, my mom's grandmother, and I remember her vividly. As my grandmother watched my sister and I took us over there. They took us there all the time. My grandmother's brother, Uncle Charlie, lived with her. He never married and was the youngest of the bunch. He helped my great grandmother around the house. My great grandmother died, leaving the house to my Uncle Charlie. Hi, Katrina. Love ghost stories. Oh, I'm glad. Okay, so one day my father, the one who lived in the haunted house as a kid, was steam cleaning the carpets the day before my parents were holding a reunion at our house for my mom's family. And he was doing so such that he backed up while cleaning the carpets so as not to leave footprints in the wet carpet. When he was done, he turned around to put the cleaner away, turned back around, and there were boot marks in the carpet. Not thinking anything of it, he took out the cleaner and ran it over the rug again. Turned around to put it away, and the same thing, the boot marks appeared again. He kind of just shrugged it off, fixed them again, and went about cleaning the rest of the house. The next day was reunion. It wasn't a year since my great grandmother, died. Uncle Charlie showed up late that day, something he never did, and was acting a little weird. Later that day, he passed away on the kitchen floor of my parents' house from a massive heart attack. My uncle wound up buying the house Uncle Charlie and my great grandmother lived in to keep it in the family. He, my aunt, and my very young cousin Kevin moved in. Kevin lived in Uncle Charlie's old room, which is the only room upstairs. A little after they moved in, Kevin was upstairs playing with some Hot Wheel cars and talking to, well, somebody. When my aunt asked him who he was talking to, he said, "My friend Charlie is playing with me." My Uncle Charlie was huge into cars, specifically racing cars. He and my other great uncle owned a racing car parts store, and he had a dedicated garage at the house to work on the racing cars. Kevin knew nothing of my Uncle Charlie because he was very young. He was probably around 3 or 4 at the time. One time Kevin was up there and my aunt found him coming down the stairs backwards. Freaking out, she grabbed him and told him that he shouldn't use the stairs without a grown-up. His response was, "Charlie told me to go down the stairs backwards so I don't hurt myself." I still get creeps thinking about this stuff. Yes, my TikTok is Stephanie Steffany underscore strange. So it should be similar to like the YouTube, but with the underscore. So Stephanie underscore strange. Hi, welcome back. Okay, so that is a very fascinating story. This is what I was saying yesterday. It's like I find the whole thing with like children being able to tell you things that they've never heard of, or knew about, like the whole Uncle Charlie thing. This is like an interesting one. Or I know yesterday we were reading one with like the lady and her kids, like just potentially having like a past life together. That one was super fascinating. Oops. Okay, so so this one is from Cherry Pie underscore Sunny. Um, Says my daughter started talking my daughter started talking quite early. And I remember even the health visitors at all her checkups were quite surprised with her language skills. Pretty much from the moment she was able to link words together, she would say something like, I want to keep you or can I keep you to me and her dad. We assumed she was still figuring out language, thought it was very sweet, and assured her she could keep us for as long as she wanted. This went on for years. When she was about 4, she brought it up in the car while we were driving home from somewhere, and as always, we promised we were all hers and her brother's, who was still a baby at this point. She kept repeating it over and over, getting more and more worked up. Before she started crying and shouting that we didn't understand what she meant, we weren't taking her seriously. So I asked her to explain exactly how she meant it. She answered that she would become an adult like me and daddy and then have different parents and we would have different children. Oh, that sounds sad. Her little brother was about a year old at the time, and I thought maybe she was a bit confused about the concept of siblings and assumed we kicked her out so we had space for more babies, like some baby making factory or something. But when I tried to explain, she got upset about me not understanding her again. She said she understood we were her and her brother's mommy and daddy until they were adults. And then they would become a mommy and daddy. But after that, they would have a different mommy and daddy, and we would have different children because that's how it works. But she didn't want that. She wanted us to always be her mommy and daddy. It was at this point that my husband and I looked at each other like, what the fuck? I thanked her for explaining, told her we understood that she meant, and promised we would do our best to make sure we would always be her parents. That was the last time she ever brought it up. It was a weekly, if not daily, occurrence up to this point, but she literally never spoke of it again. Looking back, I wish I had asked more questions, but I didn't want to upset her further, and quite frankly, my mind was blown and needed time to process. I asked her about it when she was 7 or 8, but she didn't remember the incident. She shrugged and said, all I have to do is make sure I always choose you as my parents. She's now 10, doesn't remember any of it, but is right on track for becoming a pagan witch. I still think about that day a lot though. It went from, ah, my baby's figuring out language to everything I knew and believed about life is wrong. Oh my gosh. She's talking about in laws. Yeah, could be. Yeah, I can see that. Okay, this one is from IKTN62. My creepiest moments come from my grandchildren. My 4 year old son was spending the weekend with us. I woke up at 3 a.m. to see him standing beside my bed staring at me. I asked him if he was okay, if he needed anything, and he just whispered, most paranormal activity happens at 3. Turned around, went back to bed. I didn't fall back asleep for a long time that night. Oh my gosh. I'd be like, what's going on here? Why are they watching me sleep? Okay. Also, when my granddaughter was around 2, she and a friend were playing outside at our house. We had a feral cat hanging around all summer, and she gave birth to a litter of kittens. By the time we found them, all the kittens had died. So my husband buried them in his little gazebo flower area in our yard. It had a little white fence around it and was just a peaceful place. We hadn't mentioned the poor dead kittens around our granddaughter, but while she and her friend were playing, she took her friend's hand and asked, do you want to see the kitties play? We can't touch them, but we can watch them, and led her friend straight to the little gazebo area where the two little girls pointed and laughed about the kittens that none of us could see. My husband is a huge skeptic about paranormal stuff, but even he admits that he can't explain that. She also often talked about Ghost William at her other grandparents' house. Her great great grandfather was named William and built the house. One day, they were getting ready to leave the house to go out for dinner when my granddaughter threw an absolute tantrum. She wasn't one to throw tantrums, especially if it concerned getting to go somewhere. But she kept crying and saying, "Ghost William is being scary. He says we can't go." She kept calling him Scary Ghost William when she had never before mentioned that Ghost William was scary. After about 30 to 45 minutes, she stopped crying and said, "Ghost William says we can go now. He's not being scary anymore." Her other grandparents were relieved that the tantrum seemed to be over, so they headed out for their original dinner plans. As they reached the area where they normally pull out on the main road, there was a terrible accident being cleared away. A truck had ran the light and T-boned a car as it was pulling onto the highway. And had they left as originally planned, there was a very good chance that they would have been involved in the accident. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that was interesting. Yeah, I don't know. Okay. So that's interesting. I've always yeah, so basically Scary William was actually protecting his family. Okay, this one says, resting at a park bench after my run one day, and I noticed a kid about 5 or 6 years old walking up and then staring at me silently for about a minute. I ignored him, figured he'd move on soon, but he just stood there for a minute. I made a I can't imagine just sitting there like this kid. Katarina says, "Oh well, that was God telling the little girl maybe to stay home." Yeah, I don't know. It's so I'm glad that they were not part of the accident. That's for sure. Okay. So, okay, back to the kid just staring at this person on a bench. So, I made sustained eye contact, but he didn't budge. I take a breath, about to ask him something like, "So, what's up, dude?" Kid cuts me off and says, "My mom said you're my dad," and points across the park at a group of people that included several women and kids. But here's the thing, about 5 years before this, I had a tumultuous breakup with rather unhinged woman. That woman had left me several aggressive, threatening voicemails after the breakup, including one in which she claimed to be pregnant with my child, who I would never meet until such a time as she decided to sue me for child support. I didn't believe her then because it very much felt like she was just making up to scare me. But suddenly, I have this kid whose eye and hair color was close to mine, approaching me in a park saying he's my kid. My stomach went cold. My heart dropped down into my groin. I froze for a minute, trying to think of something to say to ask him. And I noticed one woman from the group he pointed to was jogging towards me now. She ran up, grabbed the kid by the hand, and said, "Leave strangers alone, Christopher." Then looked at me with a big smile and apologized. I didn't recognize her at all as she turned away to take the kid back to the group. I stuttered, "Wait a sec." The woman turned back towards me. I asked her, "He said you told him I'm his father?" She exploded into laughter and explained after she caught her breath. Apparently, she had jokingly told the kid, "I think that's your dad over there," because I was wearing the same outfit her husband does when he goes running. Kid misunderstood, taking her words literally, and came over to say hi, but then got confused when I wasn't who he thought he was. His choice of words, "My mom said you're my dad," just so happened to interact with my own mess of past experiences to give me a moment of heart-stopping panic. I feel like I'm talking to a therapist. Oh, Katrina. Is it Katrina? Sorry. Hi. Missing. Hi, welcome, guys. So that wasn't like paranormal scary, but that was definitely like a funny scare. A funny scare for sure, for sure. Um, this is just so many good stories on here. Oh yes, I these are all battery candles. Um, I'm too paranoid to have real candles and like burn down my house or something. I don't want to burn down my house. I have. All right. So this one is from I think K KS 1013. That sounds like a radio station. I don't know why, but that sounds like a radio station. Um, anyways, I lived on a military base in the US because my ex husband was in the army and my 2.5-year-old son was playing alone in his room and he kept talking, like having a full blown conversation, and no one was there. So I asked him who he was talking to when he came into the kitchen and he said, Charlie, the army man. I said, tell Charlie to go to the light. And he went back in his room. He then comes back into the kitchen and says, he said he's not ready yet. I was like, okay, given that I had a newborn as well and my ex husband was deployed, I had a friend staying with me for like 5 days as she was having marital issues. And she can attest he woke up in the middle of the night crying that night, and he never does that. He slept pretty soundly from about 6 months on, unless he was sick. So I go up to his baby gate at the door as he was in a toddler bed, and I asked him what was wrong. He then told me Charlie wants me to go out the window. Mind you, we live on the second story of a fourplex apartment building on base. I grabbed my stuff, went to a hotel on base, and called a priest the next day. I asked him to come bless my apartment, and while he was there, I told him he probably thinks I'm nuts. And he said, no, I do not. I have a woman who called me last week, a street over, with the same problem with her child. Oh my God. I also contacted my neighbor who used to live below me, whose son's room was directly below my son's room, and their son was 4 years old, so relatively close in age. I remember her telling me her son had night terrors, and it got me thinking. She told me their son would have would have night terrors while they lived there, and the only way they could get him to fall asleep was to drive around at night. He refused to sleep in his room, and she said would fight so hard he would like push his legs off the frame as they carried him. She said that all stopped as soon as they moved out. I would hear the sound of men clearing their throat all the time. Things fall in the shower. I was doing the bills at 5 a.m. once because I couldn't sleep because I was super pregnant and very much heard a man say "hey" in my living room. Wild stuff and wild stuff. Needless to say, after the apartment was blessed, it stopped. But that place still felt really thick. We moved out shortly after into a condo on base. The story, yes. And then my cat, of course. What are you doing? What are you doing? My cat's just sneaking up in here. Okay. This one is from Carrots. I'm not going to pick him up right now. I'd move out. Yeah, I would move out too. I would not like that. I really wouldn't. And then the fact that like other people are feeling or having similar experiences, not even in the same house. That's the other thing that I'm tripping out about. Okay. So my friend at work had two daughters. They were ages 5. You want to see the cat? Let's see if I can get him. So my cat's name is Paco. Oh, where'd he go? And just like that, where'd he go? I can barely see him. No, he ran out. He for sure. Oh, there he is. Paco, come here. He is like heavy. He is so heavy. He ran out. He ran out only to come back in. So here's my cat. His name is Paco. He's like, wait, why'd you grab me? And then he's purring. I wonder if I can put him near the mic if he purrs. Can you guys hear him purring? Okay. Yes, his name is Paco. He is so adorable. Yeah, I don't know if you guys can hear him purr, but you can hear him purring. Okay, perfect. He is a little purr machine for sure. Okay, I'm gonna put him down though because he is heavy. He is so heavy. I actually, I adopted. We adopted him last year from the shelter. Um, and what was interesting about the story with Paco was that, um, we had gone to this shelter 2 to 3 different times. So the first time we went there, he was put on the like non-adoptable area, and that was reserved for cats that were feral, or they were going to be put like perhaps taken to a barn. I don't know. I mean, I guess I did end up seeing the lady that does collect cats and take them to a barn. But anyway, so he was not adoptable when we first saw him, and I was like, oh, interesting, he looks so cute, and he resembled my mom's cat that had previously passed away due to cancer. My mom said that she wanted another gray cat, but she originally wanted like a female gray cat, just like her previous cat. She just was very close to her previous cat, and so we're like, okay, well, we definitely don't want a kitten. We want like maybe like a cat between like 1 to 3 years old. And so that's why I was like, oh, but he's so cute looking, and but he's not available for adoption. And so then we went back again. It was like around Mother's Day. They had like a weekend special at the shelter. So we went back and they had like a whole thing of kittens. So of course everyone wanted the kittens, and all of them were going like crazy. So this time we saw Paco, and he was now on the side where you can adopt him, right? And so I was like, okay, so he is adoptable. And mind you, like, he is the sweetest cat ever, but they had marked down that in the shelter he was not super friendly. Like, he was like a level 2. So he hisses. But what I realized with him is that he just can't see very well above his head. So he does flinch. So when he was at the shelter, because it was so loud in there, and of course cats get stressed out, he would hiss if anything would move really fast above his head. So the second visit, I was like, well, you know what? I'm going to like give it a chance. I'm going to see like what he's like in the meeting room or whatever. And so we had him there, and yes, he was scared and he was hiding, but he let me hold him. And just because he let me hold him without fighting me, I was like, okay, he's just misunderstood. He just needs a home where it's not as stressful. And so when I went to the front desk to ask about him, they said that he was on his last days. So people were giving pledges on like trying to keep him alive, but no one had shown interest because they had marked him as feral, then not friendly. So of course people didn't want to adopt him. And so I paid $50 and took him home because they were going to put him down. And honestly, he is the best, sweetest cat I've ever had. He gets along with the dog. He gets along with our well, our our pet dog, and also we have another cat. So from the very beginning, he was very scared, but he was more like scared, but he wasn't a fighter. So he was just marked wrong. But it just goes to show that, like, unfortunately, pets will get marked wrong in shelters because they're put in very stressful situations and they're not always the best. Like, they're not represented the best, basically, is what I'm trying to say. Anyway, so that's like a long story. I know that I know not everyone wants to hear that, but just wanted to share that. Anyways, so that's the story on Paco. All right, so back to creepy childhood or creepy things that kids say. This one is from Carrots, and it starts off with saying that my friend at work had 2 daughters. They were the ages 5 and 8. He was newly divorced, and I sat next to him at work for months. He ended up having the girls come in and sit with around us in the cubes on their days off from school. They were well behaved and obsessed with me. The only woman on an I team the only woman in on an IT team, sorry, in the office. So we got close and he asked me one day if I could babysit them on a weekend so he could go to court. So I said yes. Fast forward to dropping off the girls. 8-year-old is going berserk immediately, playing with my Legos and other grown up toys all around the living room. 5-year old is shy and quiet, so I wasn't alarmed when she didn't talk much. Dad left. I sit next to 5-year-old while 8-year-old is rolling around on the floor wrestling my dog. I try to goad her into talking with me and playing, but she's quiet and looking around nervously. 8-year-old gets up eventually from the floor and says, "Where's the bathroom?" I get up to walk her there, but 5-year-old pipes up and points down the hallway. 8 looks at 5, says down here, and 5 nods. 8 skips off, and I'm sitting there in a pause because how does 5 know that? I ask her, "How did you know where the bathroom is?" 5 says, "Your bedroom is there," points to the ceiling to the room above us, which is indeed my bedroom. Okay, but how did you know that too? 5-year-old then says, "Well, I've been here before." And then me, literally, I feel my face scrunch in confusion because she never had, and my home is a family owned home that was custom built by my cousins in the 60s. So then the 5-year-old says, "Yeah, I've been coming over sometimes, but not when I'm awake." After that, 8 comes back and grabs a rope to tug with the dog, and 5 looks relieved, like she was holding that in so much that she's finally free and runs over to kiss the dog. I'm kind of just sitting there shook. Oh my God. How did she know that? How did she know that? I don't know. That's interesting. All right. So I know I've been doing the live for a little bit, so I'm going to end the live here. But as always, this is always a fun time. Thank you so much. I'm going to end the live first on Instagram. So bye over here, guys, on Instagram. I'm going to stop it there. And then also on TikTok. Bye, guys, on TikTok. Bye-bye. And there we go.